morning, everyone. This is Amanda Aguilar, your host for See You Later 2020, closing the books at year-end Xero. I'm happy to have you guys on. There's a ton of you guys showing up. Still more people coming in, which is awesome. This webinar series actually came out of me writing the book over the summer. I realized that I thought I knew a lot about Xero, but until you are required to sit down and push every button and see what every option does, sometimes you're like, oh, I didn't really understand this. So definitely the first two sessions that we did were based on stuff that I just thought people need to know more about from writing the book. This session is, I'm just sharing with you my experience of how I close books in Xero. We've done this for several years, so I just wanted to share that with you. I do have an accounting practice in addition to having elephant training. I do still run an accounting practice down in New Orleans. And so even though that's probably only about a quarter of my time now, I do love to make sure that I am the one wrapping up the year-end stuff. So I'm going to share that with you. So the plan for today is one thing. It's just for me to share my year-end checklist in Xero with you. Everyone has a different way of doing this. If you surveyed 10 different Xero partners, there'd probably be 10 different checklists and 10 different ways to do this. So this is just how I do it. You should probably adapt it for your clients and your types of clients. We have a lot of sole proprietor professional services type clients. So marketing consultants, and I have a blog writer. I've got a bunch of lawyers. So this is not going to fit probably, as is, e-commerce companies or construction companies or manufacturing companies or anybody with a lot of inventory, but hopefully it's a good starting spot for you. In the handouts section, you should see my PDF of my list. That's basically what we are going to cover today. Okay, so you can follow along on the PDF if you want, or just pay attention. We are going to go kind of back and forth between the slides and in product, Xero in product, so that I can tell you what I do and then show you what I do. So the assumption that we're starting with here is that you or somebody in your staff or the client has reconciled all their line items. So there are no lines in any of the bank or credit card transactions to code. Okay, so they've been fully coded. So that's where we're starting with, that the month end has been mostly reconciled. And we are at year end, and we are going to start here. Okay, so the first thing is to check all the bank and credit card balances against the bank statements. This is super important. We have to verify that we have gathered all the cash transactions for the company. So even though we are likely running off of bank feeds, and those bank feeds are usually pretty good, even the direct ones sometimes have problems. They might drop a transaction, they might duplicate a transaction, and if we have set up our processes to be pretty automated, meaning bank rules are set up, we're using cash coding, we have integrations working, like we're going through these transactions really, really fast, hopefully, we might not realize that we have transactions that are missing. And definitely our clients don't if they're doing their own bookkeeping throughout the year. So they think because they get like the congratulations, you're reconciled, everything is fine. Usually that's true, but we have to start with making sure that we have gathered every single transaction that belongs in the bank and the credit card accounts. That's the first step. So let's look at this little slide that I created. And we're going to go into the product in a second, but there are a few different lines on the bank reconciliation report in Xero. So that's what we're going to start with, is the bank rec report. And we want to compare this bottom line statement balance at the bottom to the ending balance on the bank statement. And you see here, they do not match. That is a problem. They have to match. The ending balance on the closing date of the bank or credit card statement must match to the statement balance in Xero. If it doesn't, you got to go fix it. So you can't move on until you fix it. Has anybody, we can just do show of hands, has anybody seen in Xero where there is a line underneath statement balance that says imported statement balance is out by, or imported statement balance. Has anybody seen those? Yeah. So the best I can get from the product people is that that shows up when you have a bank feed that is sending over a daily balance, and that it doesn't tie. You don't need to worry about it. The gist is you can just ignore that. Don't worry about the imported statement balance. You need this statement balance to tie to whatever your credit card or bank says that it should. So I'm going to get over into the product. So it's gonna be a little jumpy today because I've got to go back and forth a bunch between the slides. So I apologize, but let's zoom this in so everyone can see better. And we're gonna run a bank reconciliation report in Xero. So for anybody who is not very familiar with the bank reconciliation process in Xero, let's go through that, because I think this, especially if you're used to something like QuickBooks, this is totally different. So the way that Xero's bank rec works is that as you're coding the statement lines in, let's go over here, there aren't going to be any, but in this first reconcile tab where there would normally be stuff on the left and on the right, as we're matching those up, those little tiles, or coding them, that's doing part of the bank reconciliation. So not only are we coding to, I'm using my air quotes, coding a transaction line, but that coding part, what that's doing is it's creating a transaction on the general ledger and then reconciling, linking the two of them together. So that's happening in this tab. In QBO, I think it's done a little differently, where you've got to go and check off and confirm that that you've done that, but you're kind of doing that here too. So this is the first part of it. The second part of reconciliation is to verify that everything has been taken care of. So we're going to run a bank reconciliation report as of, we're going to pretend like it's the end of the year, right? So we're going to run it for December 31, and we're going to compare this balance to our statement balance. And in our case, we're going to discover that it does not tie. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to fix those problems. Someone's asking, why would it be different? What are some issues, or why the statement balance might be different than the bank balance? Well, it's usually one of two things. Either there's a line missing, or there's a duplicate line somewhere. So meaning that either you did an import and missed some transaction lines from the bank or the credit card, or the bank feed broke for a couple of days. But this should be correct. Any other timing differences are going to be accounted for in this reconciliation report. So these are outstanding payments and receipts. So things that have hit the general ledger that have not yet hit the bank. That's what these two sections are showing. So those will be accounted for, but this statement balance needs to tie. All right, so let's pretend like they don't tie. We have to go figure out why they don't tie. And the way I do this is I go to, well, first of all, I will go back, I will go this bank reconciliation summary and keep going back every month until it ties. So I would go back and run for November and see if it ties. You got to go back till you find the problem. And then once you get it to tie, then you know your problem starts in the following month. So that's the first thing. So when I have identified where my problem month is, I go over to the bank statement tab. So this bank statement tab is Xero's, I'm going to make it for the whole year, so it's got a little bit more data, but it's Xero's calculation of a bank statement. So it's the opening balance plus or minus any transactions that have come in on the bank side and an ending balance, okay? So theoretically, this should look just like the bank statement that you're getting from the bank or the credit card. So I would take this, I would export it as a Excel or CSV file or some kind of spreadsheet, sort it. I generally sort it by amount so that I can sum up the deposits and sum up the draws. Most bank statements will have a summary at the top of the bank statement that says, these are the deposits for the month, these are the draws. So sometimes you can quickly just figure out which side the problem is on. And then I go line by line and find the problem. Sometimes this statement exceptions tab will help. It shows outliers or things that shouldn't have happened, or maybe were done manually. So it'll show deleted statements. If somebody's going in deleted statements, it will show if statement lines, sorry. It will show if someone has manually added a transaction line. So this is kind of a good starting point, but it doesn't catch everything. Okay, so we get our bank reconciliation summary. We have compared the bottom, and we have figured out that we are off by 2 transactions. We're missing one, and we have a duplicate. So I'm going to show you how to handle both of those. Let's go back over into the bank screen. So we're working in our checking account. Okay. Let's go quickly through what these tabs are, because I think this is pretty important, especially new users don't, I think, kind of get confused about what's on what tab. The reconcile tab would, if there were things on here, they would show everything that's less than a Q to be coded or reconciled. So those are bank lines that have not hit the general ledger. If they are sitting in this tab, they are not on the general ledger. Okay, they haven't been recorded. Cash coding is just a different version, a different layout of reconcile. It just takes the list and turns it into a spreadsheet. Bank statements, this is all bank statement lines, whether they've been coded or not. So it's everything we've gotten from a bank or a credit card. We can look at the view between statement individual lines or whole statements that'll show us when they were imported and what the date range of the transactions were. So this shows all bank statement lines, whether they were imported, bank feed, whether they're reconciled or not reconciled, okay? Account transactions is the general ledger. So this shows what has been posted to the general ledger. Now, if something has been reconciled, that's easy. That means it matches a bank line, it ties, and it's done. If it's unreconciled, it means that something has happened in Xero outside of the bank that we've recorded on the general ledger, and we're waiting for a line to come in. So these would be spend and receive monies that we add from up here. It would be payments on bills and invoices. Might be some integration pieces too, but it's stuff that's on the general ledger that we're basically waiting to see come through the bank. Okay, so I want to make sure that that's clear, because when we go to look for problems, we're going to have to know which tab to look at. So if we have identified that we have a duplicate transaction in Xero that was on the bank once and it's in Xero twice, we've got to go find it and get rid of it. So where might we find that? Well, if it's in Xero twice, then it is in the general ledger. So we're going to do a search on the account transactions tab. We're going to search by exact amount because we know what it is, and do a search. And we'll see that here we have 2 chlorine products transactions that are identical. Okay. So we need to get rid of one of them. So in Xero, we have this remove and redo button, or we could open it up, open up the transaction and go to options, remove and redo. When I was a new Xero user, I was a little confused about what the difference was between unreconcile and remove and redo. Anybody else? So unreconcile, if you think about the, let's look at the details because it will be kind of easier for us to see graphically. Unreconcile is going to, these 2 things are linked, okay? This is the statement line that we would see on the reconcile screen. This is the general ledger entry that has been posted. They are linked here, right? They're reconciled, they're linked. Unreconciled is going to break the link, but it's going to leave this on the general ledger and throw this back into the bank queue to be reprocessed. Okay, so that's unreconciled. We don't want to do that because this is wrong. We don't want this on the general ledger anymore. It was a duplicate. So what we actually want to do is remove and redo. So remove removes the general ledger side and then puts the bank line back to be redone. Now, because this is a duplicate, we want to get rid of it. We don't want to ever code this. We don't ever want this to go in the general ledger. So we're going to delete it. And we do that by just using the options and delete statement line. And Xero tells us this is only for duplicates. Yes, we agree. Okay, cool. The other problem we had was a missing cost. There's a question, does it matter which of the duplicates you remove? No, if they're exactly the same, it won't matter. If for some reason there's a date difference, you might want to pay attention to that. That happens occasionally when you get pending transactions, like if you've downloaded something, if you've downloaded transactions and the pendings come over, it might come, October 16th is the pending, and then the official transaction is October 17th. So you might want to pay attention to that, but no, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's say that we are also missing a $100 draw that actually happened on the bank, did not make it to the general ledger. We need to add that. So one of the criticisms I hear about Xero a lot is that you can't post journal entries to cash. You can't post journal entries to cash accounts. Does anybody feel the same? Yeah, can't post entries to cash. So you can't do it using a journal entry, but you can do it using a spend or receive money. That is what those things are. Spend money and receive money are journal entries to bank and credit card accounts. So we are going to make an spend money for this missing transaction. A spend money, like I said, is a journal entry, right? So I'm going to post an expense where, let me go back a screen so I can show you. When I'm selecting this account, it's a spend money, therefore I'm reducing the bank account. So this is the credit side of the journal entry. Hit next, and then I'm gonna put the debit side of the journal entry. So it's a marketing agency, and we spent $100 on advertising. I might have to put a description. Okay, so now we have posted a journal entry to the cash account, right? So here it is, marketing agency. On my account transactions tab, which is the general ledger, I have posted $100 to marketing agency. However, it's unreconciled, okay? So normally we would be able to match this to a bank line, but that date has come and gone. We are never getting a bank line that's going to be there. That happened a long time ago. So we have to fake Xero out and fake it and make it force a bank line. And the way we do that is a feature called enable mark as reconciled. So for whatever reason, they have hidden this setting under the help menu, but enable mark as reconciled. The default is it's off, that you can't do this. So you need to come turn this feature on to be able to have access to it. I guess it's maybe some controls around people doing a bunch of manual entries. So it's hidden over here. But what we're gonna do is go select our marketing agency transaction, use this more button that has popped up and mark as reconciled. And what that does now is create a bank statement line and link it to the general ledger entry. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm gonna take a second to look through the questions before we go on to number 2. Cool. All right, so let's see what's next. Clear bank reconciliation report lines. Okay, so what we did a second ago was to make sure that in the reconciliation report that the ending balance is correct, right? So all we really did in that first step was make sure this is correct. Now we need to address all of this stuff and make sure that this is accurate as of the end of the year. So we want to go through this reconciliation summary and make sure that we have a reason for anything that's on here to be on here. So we're going to go through every single one of these and say, yes, that's right, or no, it's not. What this does is identify matching problems usually. So a lot of times these outstanding payments, outstanding receipts that are really old are generally not still outstanding. They are just, when the bank line came in, it got matched to the wrong thing or it got coded instead of being matched. So let's look in each of these. Well, no, we're not gonna do each of them, but we're gonna grab a couple that I'm gonna pretend like are problems and fix them for you. So once we get our outstanding payments, let's say, so these are checks generally that have gone out or electronic drafts. So let's say that this Harrison Avenue Realty check is lost, it's stale, it needs to be voided and reissued. So it's check 1026. So we're going to go into our check register, which is, sorry, it's actually under business checks. And we're going to find that check and void it. So deleting it is like it never happened. We don't want to delete it. We want to void it. Now our choices are that we can void it back when it was created, and if you check this box, you can reuse the check stock. So like that's really like if you printed in the wrong order or something, you know, like they printed on the wrong numbers. So you want to void them and then reprocess them as on the numbers that actually they printed on. But in our case, we want to void this today and then reissue the check. So void this check here. And then what that's going to do is it's going to throw the payable back into payables to be processed so we can create a new check. So that's pretty simple. Let's go back to our reconciliation report. So now that's gone. It's no longer an outstanding payment. When we would go process the check, that new check would show up here though, clearly. Okay, what if we created a spend money to the wrong bank account? Okay, so as I mentioned, using the spend money up here, we can post journal entries to cash and credit card accounts. But if we pick the wrong one, Xero is going to be looking for it in, you know, whatever account we posted to, not the actual account. So like if we paid Donna with a credit card, and this is kind of a weird situation. Like you wouldn't normally go in and post like a credit card draw before it happens. But if you think about things like expense reports, where you have if you were on yesterday and you're using expenses, Xero expenses, you're allowing your employees to post spend monies to the GL because they're picking which bank account they need to tie a receipt to. If they pick the wrong one on the app, then it's going to be stuck here. Okay, so this is a situation where somebody has posted a spend money to the wrong bank account, so it's never going to clear. It needs to be canceled and then fixed. So we would just open up the spend money and come up here and remove and redo, and then you could go back and put it in the this is going to be permanently deleted. That's fine. Then you would just go back and re-enter it to the right one. Okay, let's see. Where's our report? What about if we have an outstanding receipt? So we have not collected on this. Pretend like it's a lot older than yesterday. I was creating the data yesterday. So we look at this and we're like, man, Acme said that they sent us a check. We have marked that we received the check, but for some reason it's not, it's still there. So you do a little research and you realize that what actually happened is they sent the check for a slightly different amount. So even though the bookkeeper came in and marked this bill as being, this invoice as being paid, on the bank side, it never matched up because the amounts were different. So in Xero, in bank reconciliation, you guys probably know that when you go to do you have the tiles on the left and the right, you get a lot of these matches and these green OK buttons. They will only match if the dollar amount is exactly the same. If it's slightly different, it won't give you a match. So if you have somebody who who doesn't understand that they need to go look for outstanding invoices, they may just code it to revenue, which is going to overstate your revenue. So let's go in and search. Let's say we've done some research and we know that what happened is there was a deposit for this amount. There's a transposition error. So we pull up this deposit. So it cleared our bank, but instead of matching it to a outstanding invoice, it got coded to revenue. So we want to remove and redo this, go back into our reconcile, and then go find and match it to the correct payment, and then make an adjustment down here. So we can write it off. We could just write off the difference, I guess. It'd probably be the easiest thing since they paid us less, or we could go in, create some kind of, we could go into here, create the payment for the actual amount, and then still have a balance of $9, however you want to handle it, but it does need to be matched. Otherwise, it'll never get fixed. Make sure you grab those downloads with the checklist if that's something you want to keep. There is a Facebook group if you're on Facebook. This is a pretty good resource. I'm trying to build it as a community where folks can ask questions and help each other out. So if you're on Facebook, feel free to join. Love you guys. Take care, and I'll see you around soon.